Hi there, welcome back to the channel. David Taylor or Mr Pelargonium here, back with another video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. It's a new year, a new season effectively just about upcoming in the UK now. Today I'm going to be looking to stop a Regal. I've got plenty to do, so let's have a look. Hello there, well welcome back to the channel and a very happy new year to you. I'm filming this on the 3rd, Monday the 3rd of January. So just into the new year. We're obviously past now the shortest day, and so the days are going to progressively get lighter. It's not really until the end of the month that we really begin to notice the difference in light levels, but hopefully we turn that corner now and the days are getting longer in the northern hemisphere, of course. So we can begin to sort of start to look forward to things beginning to, start to move slowly as the days progressively get longer. Now, everybody knows that, who follows the channel that is, knows that I've got a relatively darkish greenhouse, particularly in the winter, and my Regals need a good long time to reach their top potential for the show season in June, where I exhibit my Regals, and I always have to stop and cut back and shape my plants very early. My Regals, this is, and we are about the 26-27 week mark, which is very, very early for stopping plants for a show. But I have to stop mine now to get that timing right for them. So there's a caveat with this. In the main, you would generally stop and cut back your Regals at around about the 18 to 20 week mark prior to a show. So, really put a caveat on that. If you've got, got a relatively, say, open greenhouse, 18 to 20 weeks is usually, good timing. 18 if you just literally tip stop. 20 if you go down a little bit deeper, which is what I generally do. I cut mine back relatively hard. So for exhibition, if you're going to do that, you always need to tack on a couple of weeks extra to your stopping times if you're going to cut down a bit harder. But in the main, when we say the stopping times of around 18 weeks for double zonals and Regals and plants of that type, we're really meaning sort of tip stopping. So that would just literally mean nicking out the tips for them to grow on then in the remaining time up to the show. And my Regals I do now in this early stage of the first week of January. I have, as you may know, repositioned them this year into the lightest part of my glass house. So knowing my luck, it'll backfire and they'll all be flowering way too early. But, that's the way of the world. We'll have to see how it goes. Right, so we'll have a look at cutting that back just sort of separately in a moment. A few other bits and pieces. The weather in the UK has been really, really almost warm in many ways. It's not been good. It's not been a good winter really for trying to overwinter pelargoniums, because I have my heater set on about 5 degrees and it's barely come on in the last 2 to 3 weeks. December has been very different, because if you remember, cast your mind back to my last video when I think we had snow at the end of November and it was unusually cold. Well, the end of December has been unusually warm, and it's been a nightmare actually. I don't think I've ever known such a bad winter for getting zonal pelargoniums through the winter. Every day I'm having to come down here, I'm picking off dead and dying leaves. I did this one just a couple of days ago and I've already got 2 or 3 brown dying leaves on it that are just beginning to rot back. It's been really difficult. It's made it very difficult to get the watering right as well. Because of course, because it's been a bit milder, they maybe have just supping up a little bit more water than they would on average during a normal winter. And the damp, I get a lot of damp in this greenhouse, and as I say, because the heater's not been coming on that much, with, you know, sort of pushing warm air or getting a good airflow round. And I have lost a few, there's no doubt. I've lost a few plants just because they've rot back. I probably did overwinter too many this year, but they have thinned out to a certain extent because I have lost a few. But, you know, that's the way it goes. Thankfully, it's plants that I've got plenty of. So I haven't lost any specific types. Because I'm an exhibitor, I grow mine relatively fleshy. And that, of course, is what generally would invite the rot back. And there's a Regal there that's just got a leaf that's just rotten back. I've just slipped that off. But that's the sort of thing that we're getting. It has been very, very difficult. Right, so what we're doing now then, I'll home right in on this plant so you can see what I'm going to do. I may speed up some parts of it so that you can, you know, so you don't get too bored with running through. There'll be one or two leaves that I want to strip down. But in the main, it's shaping it up. It's fairly round. It's not too bad, actually, this one. So it's just going to need a bit of a cut back. Of course, this cutting back will provide me with extra room, which is what they need in order to grow through the spring. I've got a number of others, but I did water them quite late last week. So a lot of them are quite damp. They're almost too damp to cut back. I have found one, though, that is a bit drier, which is this one here. This is Zophia Pope. Which provides, I'll probably see if I can put a little bit of a picture of the bloom in now, just to show you. It's a lovely white with a lovely red, deep red blotch, bred by Martin Pope. I released it when I was running Gosbrook Nursery, and it really does make a superb exhibition plant. It's a slightly strange one though, because it does tend to be relatively slow growing during the spring, and then all of a sudden it will provide a real burst of growth in sort of late May to produce a really good head of bloom. I'm just stripping off some of the yellowing leaves, so I'll just home in now so you can see what I'm up to. Okay, so the first thing we've got to have is a nice clean knife. I've got this covered in Jay's fluid, so we just wipe this down. Need very clean knives. Now we've got a nice light airy day today, so when this is done, I'll be able to fling the windows and doors open to be able to give this lots of air to seal these cuts off. So the first thing I'm doing, there's a bloom there. That's a bloom break that's just beginning to come. I will just look round. I'm not too bothered about cutting some of the leaves off. I'm just going to, if they look as if they may snap without causing any break, I will do it, but I will lose some of the leaves because the aim of the exercise as well is to get lots of light down into the base of the plant to be able to make it want to break right from down below, deep in the stems of this plant to make it really bush out, which is what we're wanting to do. Obviously deep down we're going to have a few dead and dying leaves, so I'll get all of those out while I'm at it. I'll do an initial cut there just in front of a break. So there's that. That's more or less a tip stop. So I'm just going to do a few of these initially because I will see what the balance of the plant is like after I've done a good number of them. It's possible that I may need to cut one or two of these back further, but it's a balancing act. Just going to snap that leaf off there. And that one back there. With Regals, you do need to be a bit careful when you take the leaves off, not to snap off the stem breaks below it. So be careful there. The dead leaf, got a few. It's quite. This plant is actually quite clean, actually. You've got a few dead and dying leaves, which is always to be expected in the base of a plant, having been through, you know, half the winter. So obviously now I'm doing this now, but as I've said, 18 to 20 weeks is when you would perhaps normally be doing this. A stop this hard would normally be done at probably 20 weeks. As I say, this will be a two-phase process, because what will happen, I will see what it looks like from the top at the end, and some of these stems will almost certainly need to be cut back further. Don't worry too much about these leaves that we're taking off here. I can take those ones off as well, because these will all grow back. These will be insignificant come the time of growing back for show. So, you know, you don't need to worry too much about taking leaves off. 6 months nearly to the show time. It'll be covered in new leaves by then, so don't worry too much about that. So all this leaf stripping will aid light getting down into the base to produce lots and lots of new growth. Got a little stem in there that I'm just literally going to nick the top off. It's vital that you do try to nip every single stem, regardless of whether it's a longer stem or a shorter stem. And I can see now that this stem here in particular is much longer than that one. So this is going to have to be cut down harder. So I'm going to do that now. And this is why I'm doing mine at this early time, because I am cutting back relatively hard. But this one here, remember this very first one that I just took a little flower bud off, this is going to need to be cut back fairly hard. So we'll go in and do that one now. Right, now I'm looking around the plant. This is all even round here. I'm more or less to the edge of the pot here, which is a good marker. On there. But the problem stem is this one, and it's the one that I did fairly early, which I thought would probably be an issue. This has got to be cut back much harder. Nick that off, and we're more or less done. There we are. Relatively hard stop. It's just a bit more than a tip stop, I would say. This is just a bit more than a tip stop. It's a relatively hard stop. Okay, so we can really sort of see what we're looking at, and it's that always that top view, which is what we're sort of looking to achieve. It's nicely rounded. We got a good bit of green leaf on this. This has actually come through the winter very well, actually, especially when I think of some of my other Regals have been really quite, you know, sort of untidy. But this is done very well. I will just pick out 1 or 2 dead stipules, of which there aren't that many on here, actually. It's not too bad. I've nicked every single stem. Got a slightly dead leaf there. Get rid of that. Chuck those in the bin. But I've left plenty. There's enough green leaf on here to sustain it. It's fairly dry. Of course, that's the other important thing to note. It's fairly dry. It's nicely balanced. The one thing that you don't want, though, and there's something to note, you don't want flailing leaves on the top of the wounds. So just nick that leaf off because it was right over that wound there. We don't want that. But it's fairly balanced, I would say, this plant. Quite nicely balanced. And you can see here lots and lots of little breaks, all just really beginning to just say hello to the world and really push through to hopefully make a nice bushy plant. One in there, look, several here, all up this stem. These are slightly bigger. These are already beginning to break. And that's going to hopefully make a really nice bushy plant come the early summer, late spring, early summer, with our show on the 18th of June. Okay, so there we are. A little look today at stopping Regal Pelargoniums. As I say, I always have to place the caveat that I am doing these very early, unusually early. If you're looking to exhibit Regals for show and haven't done it before, you will need to get used to your own stopping times. But in the main, it would be 18 to 20 weeks, depending on how hard you want to push them down. As a rule, around about 18 weeks if it's just sort of the tip stopping. So it's important that, you know, you don't get carried away with what I'm doing now. But just, you know, make a note that if you're doing it in 18 weeks, you can, you know, use this video as your guide. So there we are. I think that's just about all for today. I'm going to be away now. I'm going away. My other main love is photography, and I'm going up to Scotland, hopefully, next week for just over a week. So I'll be back towards the end of January. So I'll be back towards the end of January when we'll perhaps have a look around my greenhouse when we're sort of coming hopefully towards, you know, the end of winter. We never really know, of course, in the UK what our winters are going to be like, but we'll do a review of what's in my greenhouse. And so I'll see you again, hopefully towards the end of the month. Bye-bye for now.